Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome you to a new episode of the League of Myths series. Please don't forget to throw in a like if you do end up enjoying the video. But without much further ado, let us go into the first myth. This one submitted by Gershabad. How does Cassiopeia Ultimate interact with Katarina's Ultimate? Now the reason this one is interesting is because Cassiopeia does either stun or slow their target based on whether or not they're facing her. And while Katarina is using her ultimate, she's obviously spinning on the same spot. So how do the two ultimates interact? So for the first test case scenario, we have Katarina facing the Cassiopeia just before she uses her ultimate. And as she begins spinning, Cassiopeia fires off her ultimate and it actually stuns her. In the second scenario, Katarina is facing away from the Cassiopeia and begins channeling her ultimate. And this time, Cassiopeia's ult only slows the Katarina, not stuns. And for the last test case scenario, we tried our best to position the Katarina facing directly upwards to see if she will be stunned or slowed if she's facing directly up. And she got slowed because it is probably impossible to make her face directly up. She will always be facing one way or the other. So we can deduct that Cassiopeia's ultimate affects Katarina based on what direction Katarina was facing prior to her ultimate. The second myth of this episode: if Fiddlesticks fears Valor, which is the ultimate of Quinn, as the Valor effect is about to end, will Valor stay permanently on the field? So this is actually a very interesting interaction between Valor or Quinn and Fiddlesticks. As Quinn pops her ultimate and Valor, the bird, swoops in. This mode obviously only lasts for a certain amount of time. And if I skip ahead just a bit to right when the ultimate is about to finish, you can see the Fiddlesticks fears me as the ultimate was ready to finish and bring Quinn back on the field. But instead it actually disrupts that whole effect and Valor is able to stay on the field for as long as she wants. This is actually a pretty interesting bug. And you can be Valor for the rest of the game using all of her abilities. You can level up and level up the new abilities as well, and you can switch back to Quinn quite literally whenever you so choose. The third myth of this episode submitted by Kyle: if Braum recalls with his shield up and blocks an ability, does it stop his backing animation? So Braum's shield will completely negate any damage that is thrown at him as a projectile for the first shot only. So since he does not take any damage, will it stop his backing animation? And in the first scenario, as Annie throws her Q, you can see that it does. But does it interact any differently if the ability used is not a target but rather more of a skill shot? So in this case we used Annie's W and it still interrupts it, even though he's not taking any damage from the ability. And just for testing purposes, we also tried this with an ability that stuns. And as I'm sure you can guess, it interrupts it as well. And the last scenario we wanted to try was with a snare type ability. So in this case, Lux's Q, but as you can probably tell, it also interrupts. Which again is interesting since Braum is not taking any damage. The last myth of this episode: if Lysandra uses her E, dies, revives, can she still go to that same E? So if you're unaware, Lysandra's E ability is an ability that she can use a second time to take its place, which can be very useful to gap close and to get away. But in the first scenario, as I use it and Pantheon kills me, I revive, and just as I revive, the E is completely gone, and I am unable to teleport back to it. But we decided to test it on Summoner's Rift as well, just in case the ability interaction works slightly different on the Crystal Scar. With the same principles applied, as I use my E, Pantheon hits me and kills me. But it seems just as I die, the E ability in my action bar goes on cooldown right away, even though the animation of the ability seems to still continue going. Alright guys, that unfortunately does mark the end of this episode of League of Myths. If you did end up enjoying this episode, please don't forget to throw in a like and share it with your friends. You can also submit your own myth for me to test for a chance to be featured on the next episode. And you can do so by either throwing down a myth underneath this video in the comment section, tweeting at RedMercyLOL, or on my Facebook fan page, also RedMercyLOL. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and I hope to see you next time. Peace.